Okay, everyone, it's Marcus, and I am with David Miller from El Divo. David, how are you?
Doing very well, thanks. How are you?
Good, thank you. Exciting news for you guys. We have got a brand new tour called A New Day that is coming to the Australian shores, yeah?
Yes, yes, we're very
Fantastic.
excited.
Now,
Um,
the last time you toured here was 2014, correct?
2018.
18, right.
Yes,
Which
was
was
the
a
last
while
time we were in
ago,
Australia.
before the COVID period.
hmm
Yeah. So are you excited to get back?
Well, the short answer is yes. Australia is absolutely one of our favorite places in the world to play. It's been one of my favorite places to visit and to perform in. I was there back in 2000 over the millennium, singing with the Sydney Opera with Opera Australia at the Sydney Opera House. So and it really has been one of my favorite places on the planet ever since. But it is a little bit of a bittersweet return. Obviously, we haven't been there for quite some time since 2018, and as you may know, we lost one of our members in 2020, and so this will be our first time back to Australia since his passing, since Carlos Marin passed. And so while we went through that entire process of grieving his death very publicly and on tour and helping fans all around the world grieve his passing and also go through the grieving process of COVID, because virtually everybody at every concert had lost somebody. So there was this great sense of community that was formed that we didn't get to do in Australia. So we're bringing this new tour. It's called A New Day, and after a year of mourning and grieving in those performances, we really wanted to just like raise the energy back up, get the focus back on the joy of performing, the joy of music, the joy of connecting with audiences. But we know that there's still a lot of people who are still going through that loss of Carlos, and so we're going to hold space for both things to be true at the same time.
And of course, stepping into the group now, we've got Stephen LaBrie.
Mhm.
How many years or how long have you been working with him for?
He has been just a wonderful voice and a wonderful source of support for us in a time of desperate need. I've known Stephen since about 2011. He and I have sung some music festivals outside of Il Divo. And I've actually been working on my solo opera album for the last 12 years. But I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, but we're getting closer.
Yay!
Anyways, I invited Stephen to sing a duet with me on that album, and we recorded that back in 2019. It was right before COVID hit. And so he was literally like the one baritone that I had a chance to perform with other than Carlos in the last 20 years. So I reached out to him and I was like, what are you doing next year? And he was like, why, what's up? And I told him kind of what we had just gone through. And we said, like, can you sing these notes? Because Carlos, he had an exceptional voice, just truly exceptional voice. And because of the nature of his voice and how that kind of impacted our voices, and he was always raising the bar, and we were always jumping over it, and we were raising the bar. And so we had created this calibration of music that was so difficult. And I've said this before in other interviews. Il Divo is harder. An evening of Il Divo singing that is harder than any opera I have ever performed. And it's like that for each one of us. For Carlos singing in his baritone voice, it's harder than any baritone part that I know of. Me on the tenor track, it's harder than any tenor track that I know of. And so I was like, hey, man, can you do this? And he's like, well, I have the range. And so we would send him the tracks and say, here's the line and here's what you have to do. And we're like, can you do this? He was like, I don't know, but I'd like to try. I'd like to be there for you. I'd like to be there for the group. And if we have to figure out navigating around this song or that song or redistributing the parts or whatever we have to do to make it work, I'm there for you. And it was really cool to kind of have that support, and that he just had my back. And we spent the whole year touring with him, and just every performance that went along, he just got stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, which then in turn kind of helped us get stronger and get back to our emotional centers, which is what you really need in order to be able to perform well.
Obviously, this year is a very exciting year for you guys because you were discovered, or the group formed in 2003 by, of course, Simon Cowell. So it is 20 years, a 20-year celebration. You've been kicking butt for a while.
Yeah, and it's snuck up on all of us. You know, I think it was at some point last year while we were going through this melee of emotion, one of us was like, hey guys, next year's our 20th anniversary. And I was like, holy shit, how did that happen? And it really was kind of this, we had a similar moment back in 2010 where we had gotten an award in the UK for Artist of the Decade. From the UK Billboard 100, or no, it was from the Brits, the classic Brits, and we just went, what? How is that even possible? What is going on here? And then during that ceremony, they kind of listed off all of the accomplishments, all of the places we had sung, and all the people we had sung for, and all the people we had sung with, and you know, and album sales, and this and that, and iconic TV performances. And we're watching this reel that they're playing going, holy crap. None of us ever clocked this. None of us ever really, that was one of the things that I thought was, I don't know if Simon Cowell had that in his mind at the outset, or if it was just dumb luck, but the four of us were always just committed to the music. We're music nerds. You know, we want to do the best that we can. We want to give 100%. We want to make every track just as the best we can do. We want to give every tour the best we can do. If we're on a TV, it's just like, what are we doing today? What are we doing today? What are we doing tomorrow? We don't have that time to think about tomorrow. What are we doing today? And it's just always been that way. So here we are 20 years later, scratching our heads going,
well, because I mean, you've sold over 30 million albums, 160 gold and platinum album certifications, in over 33 countries. I mean, you've done some serious work, you guys. On top of that, performing with Celine Dion, you know, Toni Braxton, which leads me to another question. Just you personally, who would you love to be performing with? Who would you love to have as on with Il Divo as a special guest?
That is a very interesting question, because there are so many talented people out there. I think that combining the female element into this kind of wall of masculine sound that we create, it really it works the best. The one time that I remember we sang with Michael Ball in England, and it was a wonderful experience. He's such a lovely man. He's great to sing with, you know, talented producer, and we recorded the track together, and it was on our music theater album. But it just sounded like more expanded Il Divo. I think when we sing with a female component, that really brings kind of a softer side of Il Divo, and I think a more emotional component. It breaks it up a little bit. Like you mentioned, Toni Braxton and Celine Dion, we performed on stage with Barbra Streisand as well.
Wow.
I think Beyonce would be a kick-ass collaboration.
Yeah.
You know, I think that I'm trying to think, who else were we talking about recently? Like Christina Aguilera. It's gotta be someone that's got a deep gravitas to their personality. They've got to be a diva. Il Divo and a diva, like that's how it works. In my mind, that's how it really works.
Mariah Carey, there we go.
Hey, now we're talking.
Big.
Yeah.
Iconic.
Exactly.
Hey, so I mean, obviously 20 years, like we said before, you've done a lot of work in 20 years. What's a personal highlight for you with the group?
geez, how long do you have? I've got a, I've got a laundry list of them. It literally was, even though it doesn't stick in my head because it's like, what are we doing today? But just so many seminal moments from the formation of the band and meeting the other guys and not knowing what any of us were doing, not knowing what the record company wanted from us, but just sort of figuring it out as we went along. So much fun, such a collaborative endeavor, and so seminal to the foundation of our relationships that really set us up to working well together and doing the best that we could, which then created a knock-on effect of pretty much everything we turned our attention on. It just became part of the fabric of our lives. And we had so many lucky moments as well. Having Simon Cowell at the helm, first of all, he opened doors that we collectively could never have opened on our own. So that another key moment. I didn't even know Simon was supposed to be was involved in it until after I had signed on the dotted line. Wow. All I knew was I was auditioned by one of his kind of right-hand people. And I had only seen that guy all the way up and through like the signing of the contract. And we were talking about scheduling and stuff like that. And he was like, "Oh, this up in November." And I was like, "Oh, I'm not available in November. I have an opera I'm doing. So I won't be able to make that." And he was like, "Oh, you don't understand. Simon is asking that you basically give up the next 5 years of your life." And I'm like, "Simon who?" "I thought you were in charge of this." And he's like, "Simon Cowell." And I was just like,
wow.
Okay, this takes this whole thing to another place that I was not expecting. Because in the opera, you go in, you make a recording, they put it on the shelf, you go back to your career. I was like, oh, okay, this is different. So then there was that. There was performing live with, each of the people that we have mentioned there. There was the first time we went on tour together. There was the first time I had never held a microphone before Il Divo. My whole career was opera. There was just so many moments. I don't know that I could pick just the first time we went to each of these countries, first time we went to Japan, first time we went to Australia, first time we went to, all of these moments. If I had to pick one, I think it would have to be when we performed with Barbra Streisand at Madison Square Garden. It was the second night. It was kind of the first night was the soft opening over in Jersey, but it was pretty much opening night of her tour. And she had us on as special guests. And she had set it up in a way where we were not the opening act, where she brought us in partway through Act 1 and then left the stage to go make a costume change and kind of left the audience with us. And it was Madison Square Garden, which is like, I don't know how many tens of thousands of people was it. And it was just, you looked out into this sea of faces that you knew but had never met. Movie stars, TV presenters, newscasters, former presidents, rock and roll legends, just literally every single seat, as far back as the splash from the light from the stage was, and then it just became like sea of faces, but all the way back to row J, M, P, S. You look over there, it's Jon Stewart from The Daily Show. You look over there, it's Sting. You look over there, it's Bill Clinton. It's absolutely incredible moment.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. Coming to Australia, what do you love about the Australian audiences?
I think the thing that I like is that Australians don't give two tits about expressing themselves, or rather not expressing themselves. They will tell you what they think, and they will not hold back. And I appreciate that brutal honesty. It's not always good. It is not always good. I remember I was there at the Millennium. I was singing with Opera Australia. I was singing an opera called Pearl Fishers, and I was playing a character part called Nadir, which is the opposite of zenith. In Greek, the word nadir means the low point.
Yep.
And my review, the reviewer did not like me, and his review of me was David Miller was definitely the nadir of the show. And that's all he said. No qualification, didn't say why, just left it on the floor right there. I was like, oh, dang. I was lucky I also got some positive reviews. It didn't completely decimate my ego. But so that kind of set me up for understanding the Australian outspoken mindset. And so that when we came to Australia for the first time and that we had the reaction that we did, it was like, oh, yeah, they will not lie to you, and they like it, and we're doing a good job. And so in a way, it's always been our like barometer pressure of like when the Australians show up, and if they're like, woo, and it's like, yes, we are doing a good job. The Australians said so.
We get into it. We really do. I
Yep.
truly believe that the Australian audiences rock.
Yes.
And then moving on to Adelaide, of course, which is where I'm from. And I know that, you know, when you're on tour, you don't get a lot of downtime. I totally get that. But last time you were in Adelaide, as we said, 2018.
So.
What are any things sticking out for you in regards to your last visit to Adelaide that you look forward to seeing again or experiencing again, eating at again, drinking at again?
Give me 1 second because we've been, yes, actually, sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes all the cities start to run together.
Of course.
But I remember like the first time we went to Adelaide, I think it was 2012. And I remember I was working on kind of doing the video documenting of the entire tour. And I had started my goal was to film a little bit in every day of that tour from beginning of rehearsals till closing night. And I remember Adelaide, and I remember the churches
Yes.
that we were going through from the airport and pulling into town, and I'm just like catching whatever's in front of me, right? I got a little handy cam, whatever. Like, oh, that's a cool church. Oh, look at that. Then a few blocks later, it's like, oh, well, look, there's another church. And then it's just like, what is this place? This is fantastic. Yeah, and so I do have that memory. It really sticks out. It was such a well manicured city as well.
Yeah.
And that the people were just spectacular. They were so much fun.
Well, we are super duper looking forward to having you back here. I can't promise you to churches, but I can tell you we've got some amazing restaurants going on, some amazing bars going on. So hopefully you get I mean, you're not going to get a night off, but hopefully you get a little bit of an afternoon where you can come out and experience some of the Adelaide culture.
Well, I will say this, when we come to Australia, because Australia is quite spread out, it's not like we're a busing tour where like in America where like you're in Boston and then you're in New York and then you're in Philly and then you can really like every single day just like knock out another city. It's not like that. You've got to take a 2.5 hour flight. So it is a bit of a slower pace for our tour, and we do have time to enjoy it when we do take the time. So I am looking forward to coming back and experiencing Adelaide.
One more question in regards to the tour. So what can we expect? Obviously, 2018 was the last one. What can we expect from the 2023 tour, A New Day?
Right. Well, it is our first time back since losing Carlos. And since 2018, it's just been a long time, and a whole lot of shit has gone down in that amount of time. And so we're looking forward to reconnecting with the audience. We're looking forward to hopefully transforming people's grief the way we have helped to transform people's grief in other parts of the world as well. We're bringing in a set list of songs that is really just very uplifting. Last year's tour was very much like a memorial service. It was so heavy. It was beautiful, but so heavy. We're just trying to bring a great deal more light to this tour. We've actually taken a few of our songs and reorchestrated them and given them a bit of a 2023 facelift. There's a set of 3 songs that we're doing, and we're hoping that people are going to hear these legacy songs of ours because they're off the first album. So people have been hearing these ones since the beginning. They're going to hear these songs and they're going to go, what is happening right now? I know this song, but this is different. This is new. And we're really trying to capitalize on this idea of new. Next year, 20th anniversary, we're working on a new album. We're working on creating, obviously, the classic Il Divo sound, but really giving it an update, trying to bring it into, you know, this decade and see where the life and the road takes us. And we're hoping that the audience reactions in Australia, because they are the barometer, if they like these new songs, they're going to like this new album.
Fantastic. Well, A New Day comes to Australia in November this year. Of course, Adelaide is on the agenda, everybody. David, what an absolute treat. I feel like we need to hang up so you can get back to doing your album.
I know. Gotta get back to it.
I feel like I'm holding you up.
Away.
Back to work.
Back to work.
What an absolute treat. You are an absolute gem. And I'm so looking forward to seeing you in Adelaide in November at the Adelaide Entertainment Centre. It's going to be a treat. You are a delight. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking with you.